Hello everyone, and welcome to my presentation on sensitivity analysis and capital budgeting. Sensitivity analysis is a technique used in finance and capital budgeting to determine how different values and independent variables affect a particular dependent variable under a given set of assumptions. For an example, what happens to my project if a key data input is changed? Let's say the price of a product, labor costs, or interest rates fluctuate. Sensitivity analysis helps us understand the effect of those changes on our project's profitability, especially in metrics like net present value and internal rate of return. This is especially helpful in uncertain environments where assumptions can change quickly. Before we run any numbers, first we need to take a look at the qualitative steps. The first step is to identify key variables that may affect the outcome of the project. For an example, sales volume, unit cost, or discount rate. Next, we assess the industry, context, and understanding what assumptions we are making. We are assuming steady economic conditions, constant demand. These need to be clarified. Lastly, we engage with stakeholders. That could be managers, investors, or analysts to gather insight about potential risks or uncertainties that aren't quite easily quantifiable. Once we've taken the qualitative steps, we will move on to the numbers. First, we establish a base case scenario. This is where we assume everything has gone as planned and as expected. Then, we change one input variable at a time while keeping the other constants to see how that change impacts. The net present value and internal rate of return. For an example, we might ask, if the cost of raw materials increases by 10%, how much does our NPV drop? Then, we would use a sensitivity graph to visualize that result. This graph would be able to show us how sensitive our project is to these changes in each variable situation, helping us to better identify the risks of our assumptions. So, how does this all tie into risk? Well, risk is an unavoidable part of capital budgeting, but we can manage it. One way is by using a risk-adjusted discount rate, which means we increase the discount rate to account for a higher uncertainty. We may also run multiple scenarios like best case scenario, worst case scenario, and most likely to get a more well-rounded and complete picture. Another advanced method is the Monte Carlo simulation, where we simulate thousands of possible outcomes based on random variables and their possible situational changes. All these methods help incorporate risk into our decision-making so we can make more well-informed decisions in our possible investment choices. There are several benefits to doing sensitivity analysis. First, it clearly shows which assumptions and inputs are most critical to the success of a project. It also supports better decision-making by preparing us to range of all possible outcomes. And finally, it also boosts credibility. When investors see that you're carefully testing your assumptions, they will be more likely to trust your forecast and possible recommendations. However, it is important to recognize its limitations. Sensitivity analysis assumes that each variable changes independently. In real life, that's rarely ever true. For an example, sales volume and pricing may change together. It can also oversimplify complex interactions between each variable. It does not always align probabilities to its outcome, so we don't know how likely it is that certain scenarios will actually happen. That's why sensitivity analysis is just one tool, not a complete substitute for broader risk management strategies. Thank you for tuning in and watching my presentation. I hope this helped you have a better understanding of how sensitivity analysis fits into capital budgeting and how we can use it to manage risk. Thank you and have a good day.